anyone having problems with the homeworks or installation or anything? Okay, so who's I think it's Mawema said he installed the WSL, but you don't know what to install next. So if you want to know what to install next, if you want to know what to install next, you need to go to Internet Computer website, right? Developer docs and build. You basically the tools of installation. So you now need to install the Internet Computer CDK. You install it with this command, right? That's how you install the Internet Computer CDK. And someone raised their hand. Oh, it's okay. So you need to install Node.js, preferably Node.js version 20, and or yeah, Node.js version 20 and the Internet Computer CDK. So yeah, I'll share this link again. Let me share with you. That's the Internet Computer docs, and you also need to install Node.js. I'm sending you the link to installing Node.js. Node.js. Wait a minute. Node.js. Looks like someone has raised their hand. Feel free to unmute your mic and speak. So basically, to install Node.js, yeah, you run this command. I think let me share this as well with you. That's how you install. And then on this part, you must do npm 20, the latest npm, and then you'll be good to go after that. You'll be good to go. So anyway, let's touch today's business. Today we're going to talk about intercanister calling. We're going to talk about intercanister calling. Let's see if we can get our project. Okay. So one thing you will need to know on the internet computer as you are developing your canisters is you will need other canisters to be able to call your canister, your project, right? Because one way or the other, your project, you will need to call other canisters and get some data. And you might also need other canisters to call your canister. And sometimes it's just you and your own canister interfacing with your other canisters and getting some data, some other functionality, right? So there are two ways of doing that. There's what is called intercanister calling by interface and intercanister calling by import, right? When you are importing when you like have the canister or the canisters in the same project, you can just import them, right? So let's say I have another canister. Let me do second canister. Second, I'm creating another canister here. .mo. Okay, hectare. So I want this canister to be able to call the other canister, right? I need to be able to call the other canister, like this one, this main.mo canister, our canister with the user functionality. So first I need to configure it here in my DFX. So as you can see here in the canisters object, that's where I need to add. If I'm adding more canisters to my project, here is where I need to add that canister. So I'll do second. And where is it? It's in the source. And second.mo. So that's how you tell DFX where your other canisters or canister is, right? So now we want to be able to call this canister. Yes, Elias, go ahead.
Sorry, sir. I just wanted you to repeat a little bit. My network was bad, so I logged out. I really didn't get what you said.
Okay, that's fine. I'm talking about intercanister calling, right? We're saying at some point you will need to call other canisters. Like you need your canister to call other canisters, and also your canister might need to be called by other canisters, right? So you need to be able to know how to do intercanister calling, right? And there are two ways you can go about it. Intercanister calling by interface, where you can have the interface of the canister you want to call, or you can do it by importing, where you can, like, if you have the canisters in the same project like this, you can simply import the other canister, right? So that's what I'm demonstrating on how you can go about it. So while we're here, let's see, just a second. Kind of multitasking. All right. So yeah, we created this new canister and then we just configured it, right? We just configured it in our DFX, and now we want to use it to call the user canister we've been working with for a while now. Yeah. So the first method, the simpler method, if you have the canisters in the same project, is to import, right? Is to import the canister you want. So let's say in here we can do import users, and saying canister. What's the name? It's called hello. Okay. All right. Right. By this, we've accessed the user canister, the hello canister. That's the name here, right? And then we want to, let's say, we want to query like what is it? We want to call the get users function from this other canister. We want to call the get users function from this other canister. So what we can just do is, let's say, public shared and get users from the other canister. The other canister, okay. So I can also import the types in here. Import types. Right. Let's see. That's about right. So okay. Yeah. And then we do, so we await users, that's the name of this canister, and then get users who have accessed this function. We've accessed this function. So if you even put like the wrong name for the function you're trying to call from the other canister, it will also scream at you. It will show you these errors, right? So it should be the exact same name, right? So now let's deploy our canister. Let's deploy our canister. TFX deploy. TFX stats clean background. TFX deploy. So TFX deploy will deploy all the canisters at once. Okay, we're getting an error. All right. So it's saying, what is it saying? File does not exist. Okay. So there's one more thing we need to do. If you are calling another canister, one canister in another canister, you have to make it a dependency of the canister you are calling it from. So dependencies. Hello. Yeah, that's about right. Now let's see if the error is gone. Let's see if we remove it. Okay. Let's try to deploy again and see if we get an error. FX deploy. Hello. Go ahead, Killian.
Yes, I think in your dfx.json file, just check the URL of the canister. Is it correct? The main source /second.mo. Is it the right directory?
This one. Okay, this one. I think it's fine. Wait. Oh. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. I missed it, this one. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was the issue, I'm sure. Thanks for catching that one. Now let's deploy again. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so that was one of the issues. Yeah. But anyway, it's also important to put it as a dependency. So let's see. We are calling the second canister. Just have get users from the other canister. Let's see, let's call it. There's nothing here. All right. So let's add some users first from the main function. Okay. So if we get users, we can get users. And here, if we do get users, we should get something now. There you go. Yeah. So that's how you go about Intercanister calling in the by importing if you have this canisters in the same project. But you'll find that like this is not the only case where you can do where you will need to do intercanister calling. Some of the canisters are not yours, and but it's you still want to call them. but you can't do any imports because they're not in a project, and also might also be written in another language. It might also be written like in Rust or a Python or a TypeScript. So you can't do this, right? But you still need to call it. So that's where intercanister calling by interface comes in, right? So what we do is wait a second. Intercanister calling by interface. Okay, so what we do is first you need to get the interface for that canister, right? You need to get the interface for that canister. So the way you can get the interface of any canister, as long as it's on the mainnet, like the interface for the public functions, interface for public functions or any canister, as long as it's on the deployed on the mainnet, you can find it on the dashboard, internet computer dashboard. So let's deploy our canister here to Playground so that it's live for a few minutes, and we can be able to look it up on the dashboard and get its interface. So let's do dfx deploy hello playground. Let's see, deploying to the playground. All right. So there's another important website we haven't really spoken much about. It's this dashboard website we are going to have a look at right now, the Internet Computer Dashboard. So dashboard.internetcomputer.org. So this website is like help you with a lot of things. Viewing, tracking transactions, viewing nodes, data centers, and one of the other things like we are doing right now, trying to see the functions of a canister. You can also even call canisters. So let it load, and then we can see what the dashboard is all about. My internet is behaving sketchily. This is weird. Why is it taking forever? Okay, there we go. Actually, computer dashboard. What's up? Show it. So anyway, let's try to scheme a few things. Still loading. Still loading. So anyway, as you can see, we have a lot of metrics here. Quite the number of metrics. From here, you can see total canister states, internet identities, total supply of ICP transactions, NNS proposals. If you remember, we said NNS is the governing DAO of the internet computer. So any update that happens on the internet computer, it happens through a proposal, and then the community votes on the proposal. So this is what we are seeing here. Neurons funds stake, neurons that have been staked, CKBTC and whatnot. And this is a map showing boundary nodes and node machines on the internet computer. Here we can see power consumption, ICP transactions. You can see transactions that are happening. For those who are familiar with Web3 already, you know, like on the Ethereum web, like Etherscan, where you can track transactions and other stuff. This is what's happening here. You can see these transactions. NNS proposals. You can see these proposals here. Neurons. If you want to vote on the internet computer, you need to buy what's like. If you want to be a member, a voting member, you need to buy neurons, which is just basically staking ICP, right? So you can stake ICP for a number of years, 8 years, like this one, 8 years, 52 ICP, and so forth. Subnets, these are the subnets that runs the node machines which hold canisters. So anyway, it's an interesting website to really go through if you really want to dive deeper into the internet computer. So yeah, and then you can move on these tabs here and see what they're all about. Network releases, canisters. So what we want is to search our canister here and find its interface. So if you search for the canister, let's give it a few minutes. It should have been done already. My internet is just sketchy today. But okay. Okay. So this information you can get, you can see the controller. So a controller is the deployer. So the person who would have deployed the canister, right? So it was deployed by this principal. The subnet is running on, so this like the actual subnet. And these are the functions of our application, if you remember them. And here's the interface, the candidate interface. So in Motoko, Rust, JavaScript, and what's not. So you can see any canister you deploy on the internet computer, you can access it because its interface will be normalized. So we want this interface here. So basically we want these functions. We want these functions. So here's what you do now when you're in your project. So by interface. Okay, so once you have the interface now, you can define the actor. You can like recreate the user actor by this syntax. So you can do let what is it? Users actor, right? And you do equals, you type actor, and then you here you put the canister ID for the canister you want, for that canister you want to call, right? You put the canister ID here, and okay, do actor, type actor again, and give it a body. And then inside the body, that's where you put the interface. That's where you put the interface. So we just want, so by interface, you don't really need to put all the functions in the interface. You just need to put the functions you want to call. So you just want to call the get users function. You just want to call the get users function. And the type, the user type. So again, if we don't have the type, we can get to the type here. So we can just copy this type here like this. We can just copy these types here if we don't have them. But in our case, we have them. So we can just do types.user. Okay. So now let's put the canister ID. The canister ID is this one. That's what we need to put here. Okay. So now let's get user. So yeah, this function is about right. Yeah, good. So with this function, get user from the other canister by interface. That's cool. And then we can now just do await get users dot get users. And then another important thing to note is that as you do intercanister calling, even if the functions are query calls, you can't, if it's intercanister calling, they will be update functions by default. So intercanister calling app that is a bit slower, because even if the functions are query calls, if you're doing intercanister calling, they will be regarded as update calls. So that's one thing to note. Okay. So yeah, here it's fine. We are doing by interface. So now let's go. Okay. So as you can see, we are calling a live canister. It's deployed on the it's deployed on the playground. So we also need to deploy this test canister here, this second canister on playground, because unless if it was on local, we can do it on local. But anyway, we can also still do it on local. We can still do it on local. Let's deploy both of them locally. Let's just do dfx deploy. Okay, so this is the canister ID for the yellow. Let's put it here. Let's deploy again. So I think if we call the second canister here, this function, it should just return the users because our states haven't been affected. Let's see. Get users from the other canister by interface. There we go. Yeah. We get the users from that canister. So yeah, that's intercanister calling. By interface, it's good to know about it to be helpful as you start building some project. You need to, you might have a token canister and you want it in your project and what's not, and a bunch of other stuff. Okay, so are there any questions at this point before we proceed? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Yes, Elias, go ahead.
When importing the users, we use the canister colon hello. Why didn't we use the same on types?
The same on types. Both the types is a module. It's not a canister. Types is a module. It doesn't have states. It can just have some functions and types. But hello, this one is a canister, so it's different. You import it in a different way. You import it like this canister, and then hello. Oh, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Cool. All right. And I think because of our time, we're almost on the clock. We're almost on the clock. Tomorrow we will touch on front-end integration, and then we can start building one of our final projects. We'll be building like an auction project. So that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. Yeah, introducing you guys to the front end and how you can integrate these functions with the front end canister. So just want to know how many of you are familiar with front end development? If you are familiar, if you are not familiar with like HTML, JavaScript, or even React, just highlight in the chat, send in the chat, please. If you're familiar with front end, with any front end development of any kind, send in the chat. Yeah, send what you are familiar with. I'm familiar with the React. If you're familiar with frameworks, just list, send the frameworks you're familiar with. Or if you're just familiar with vanilla, okay, that's awesome. Goes to know. Others, please do send. So, I mean, I have a better idea of like where to start, how to start it. in the front-end integration. Okay, Ronald, that's cool. Waiting for others. There's 18 of us, guys. Just send, if you are not familiar with anything, just do as well. Are you having network challenges? Okay. Okay, so I think to those who are new, if you can try to run a crash course, some short. I think I've sent. That's good, Andrea. That's awesome. Sure, you'll be able to help others as well. You guys with experience, try to be able to help out others in the chat. So I would say those who are not familiar, really familiar, try to find a crash course on YouTube, like really like a 2 hour, 1 hour, 3 hour crash course can actually make a real difference, right? Front-end development. It will help you. Front-end development for beginner level. The canisters and types, what is the difference? Okay, so we are developing canisters, right? Canisters smart contracts. Okay. We're developing canisters smart contracts. And then the code for the canisters is housed here in this actor. You can put it here in this actor. And then you can have all your code, right? In this actor. Okay. So, but now, okay, I'll send alias. But now, as you can see, as we are developing our project, as it's growing bigger, we will have a lot of code, right? As we're having a lot of code, we will need to be able to manage code better, right? We need better code management to manage files as the project is growing. So you see, we can't put everything. We can put everything like in this actor. Like you can see the types, the functions, and what's not, right? But it won't be organized. It won't be better code organization. It won't be clean code. There are some coding practices which are just important, which are helpful for the code to be readable and for you to understand it better, right? So we need a way of better code management. So how do we manage code? We can separate some parts of code, right? And in Motoko, and many other languages, in Motoko, we have modules. So modules can store some, you can use modules to store some functionalities in the modules. some of the functionalities, they can be some other utility functions, or they can be types, you see. But at the end of the day, you want to use all of this in your canister. So in this case, we had the types module. It's just a module, and then we just named it types because we want to store types in this module, right? You can call it anything else, but in this case, we called it types because we want to store the types in this module. You can have another different module. You can call it like utils. You're just storing utility functions in that module. And then after you are doing what you're doing, you can then import the modules in your canister, and then you start using the code in those modules in your canister. So really the concept of modules is about better code organization, right? To be able to write clean code. So a canister is the main thing. That's the one that gets deployed, but it can have a lot of modules. And you know, as you're familiar with like React or JavaScript, you get to have a lot of files. You have this file, this JavaScript file, and it has some functionalities, and then you just importing them into the main file you want to do. That's the same thing we are doing here. Except like here we have the file with the actor, our main canister, and then the rest of the functionalities we can put in other files for better management. We can put them in modules. So that's the deal with the types here. It's just a module, and then we just name the types so that we can store our types, so that we can also easily reference, like, okay, we are looking for types. Types will be in the types file. If you're looking for utility functions, it's in the utility function. You can have another set of utility functions which may have a different name, and you can call it that as well. So I hope that answers your question. I will ask Conrad. I hope that answered your question. So let me share the code right away before I forget. I usually get busy. Playground. If your question been answered, connect, just highlights. Okay. So this is the code. It's building upon the code we had last Friday. Right. So yeah, again, try to find some crash course, you guys who are new. Or the changes to the DFX. The changes to the DFX, these ones. Okay, let me do what? Let me just copy the canisters object. And I think I'll just send it here. Awesome. Okay. So let's catch up tomorrow, guys, and do some front-end development, and that will be awesome. Any more questions before we end this call? Any more questions? Looks like we are good. Okay, good night, everyone. Let's catch up tomorrow.